Always stepping up our game.
Always. Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. And that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tom. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends. How's it going?
It is partially your fault for various and sundry reasons, but this was truly a group effort at our being a few minutes late today. I'll take that. There's somebody else joining us here, though. Somebody who wants to say a little something. Tom, would you like to introduce our momentary special guest to the show?
Our momentary or our short special guest.
I'm not going to say anything about your son's height. That's rude and mean.
2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
I, as my pick of the week, chose my son's YouTube channel just to kind of do a shout out. He was at 600 and some subscribers, and we wanted to promote that. And you all did. And so we let me say it this way. I didn't expect him to go viral. So he hit 4K subscribers today, has a video almost at a 600,000 or so views. He had 1 million views on his content at this point. So Wes, you have something to say? This is my son, Wesley.
Hey guys, I would just like to thank you all for your all support. You guys have made just my last two to 3 weeks. It's awesome. And I love your all support. Thank you so much. And go subscribe.
That's right. That's right. I'll put the link down in the show notes again. If you're interested in Fortnite content and all that stuff and you want to see Tom's awesome son do some fun content, check it out. The link will be down below. Thank you,
It's
Wes.
outrageous.
Do I gotta go
Thanks.
now?
Yeah, you go.
No.
Go to bed.
Have a good night, Wes. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you all, everybody.
Thank you, buddy. I have known Wes. I've known that child since he was born. His entire life. You got a good kid there. You got a good kid. And I'm glad to see everything.
He's a good dude.
And thank you to all of our awesome people who went out and supported him and subbed or watched his stuff or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like stunning. Like, again, I expected a bump, maybe us to hit 1,000 subscribers, not for him to hit 4,000 and to go viral with one of his videos. And it's not even him playing. It's like dancing or something.
And that's fine. Here's the answer. This is simple, Tom. Look, the reality is a lot of people watching this right now probably aren't that interested in Fortnite or what your son's throwing down. Okay? That's the reality. But the average AOS player is a 36-year-old father. Okay? And that person's son or daughter, their child, okay, is 100% interested in Fortnite content and watching it anyways. So why shouldn't they be watching your sons? That's what I say, okay? Like, we need to get the collective community's kids onto, like, this is how we get to the next generation. We, the older generation, the ones who are dying, one foot in the grave, we just pass it along to the next generation to take our place.
Yeah, I'm just baffled by it. I will say this, Wes, I'll just sell this now. The plan is Wes is going to join me this fall at Holy Havoc for doubles. So he's going to be my partner this year. Vince and I believe Tyler are going to carry on the Warhammer Weekly title.
Yeah.
For their team, and Tyler will be partnering with Vince this fall. And Wes is going to come with me, and we're going to be Warhammer occasionally. It'll be great.
There you go. Yeah, very accurate. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. With that little, I don't know, sidetrack out of the way, let's get to the news for tonight. We're going to talk about AOS 4.0 in our hope since it was announced last week. So let's get amongst it with some news. What do we got first off? Why it's a rumor engine?
Rumor engine. Yeah, something new and different, folks.
Mm-hmm. It's a drill thing. It's got a skull on it. It's a 40K thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 40K.
It's a 40K thing.
Well,
they can't all be winners.
Nice. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually had models for AOS 4th edition?
Well, Tom, that's where I want to start out because the other big news from the week, obviously, now we already did a show recapping it, but you weren't here. I had everybody else. Scott was there. John was there. Okay. Marty was there. Tyler was there. We had the whole crew. Tom was too good to come join us at Adepticon. Now, on one hand, you know, he can count his lucky stars and garters that that he did not have to sit in that room and be tortured by the baton death march that was the presentation that they gave for an hour and a half. That was awful.
Hard pass. I'm very content not being there this year,
Yeah,
given the horror stories that I've heard.
It was real bad. But that being said, of course, what did you think of everything, Tom? What did you think of the stuff from the reveals?
Yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm excited about the Dawnbringers. Like, you know what the most exciting thing about like all of the reveals to me was?
I'm ready. What was that?
The Akshi terrain.
The Akshi terrain. Okay.
Yeah, like that weird spinning, like chaos terrain thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, tell me more about this.
Okay.
Tell me more about what you're wanting to do here. It's just a very interesting, like, we haven't seen them like double down on something like that in a while. Of like specialized terrain named to a specific location, having a specific function. And given all the language that they used around like the trajectory towards like these focal points and all of that stuff, it just makes me wonder like if terrain really is going to be a big part of the new edition.
Sure. I have to. Well, that will align perfectly with our hopes for AOS 4.0 later on. But this was my favorite little thing from there, which is Abraxia. Now, so this is the spear of the Everchosen, right?
Tell me about the spear.
Yeah, tell me about that. What's that spear do, though, right? What does it do? If only they would have told us how this spear works. The number, like, good God. I've beat up on this enough, but do better next time, GW. That was terrible. And whoever was responsible for that, you made the wrong choice. Feel bad. Okay? I want you to feel bad. I want you to feel bad about your choices. You did bad. Content-wise, it was great. As far as like what you the stuff and like it's nice to record all those interviews. Make them supplementary content that goes up on an article afterward.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay. So, yeah, she looks super cool. I dig the model. Dig her. Like I love big giant super chaos lords. So like
I mean, do you really like the model though?
Yeah. She's cool.
Like she is cool, but the lizard thing. Like
I don't mind the lizard thing. I think he's fine.
Like the iguana with horns. Like I don't know. Like I looked at it. It's actually like I don't know if it's the shape of the body, but it just looks very.
No, this is a terrible angle. As per usual, GW is the worst at taking pictures of its own figs. Because like scroll down here, look at this angle for this second picture, right? If you go down the article. And you can see, like, from the side, this dude looks amazing. Like, look at the side of this guy's face. It looks great. It just, that straight down the barrel shot is, like, completely terrible.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about the scaling or something that I don't like. And I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Maybe it's the green color. Like, if it was purple or something like that, it may be more punchy.
Sure.
There's just something about it that just like does not interest me.
I get you.
But like I like Varangard, like I like Chaos Lords, like that's all great.
I mean, she very much is in the classic Chaos Varangard design space, right? What I actually liked about the big beastie was the restraint. What I mean by that is like there actually is just a lot of space for him that's just kind of like scales and monster, and then he's got like the armor panels along his back. I honestly think it'd be a fun paint job. I might cut this like goofy little fire off of her weapon. I don't know about that. Yeah, I think like I think like this little it's got like it's got the floppy hair from the goth kid on South Park on it, you know?
Yeah.
Like that could probably just go. We don't need that. Like it's just a cool looking spear is fine. So, but yeah, overall this is good.
It's fine. Like it's
Okay. Anything else catch your attention from the preview? I mean, obviously, we'll talk in depth about AOS 4 and everything on that tonight, but anything else from the rest of the stuff?
I'm excited about because we had the Warcry announcement, right, which was um the bad um trying to remember who was paired up with uh the OBR. Oh, was that Sylvaneth? Yeah, it was
Yes.
the Sylvaneth. The Sylvaneth looked really nice. I like those alternate sculpts.
I think the
Those jumped
Sylvaneth
out.
looked good. I think the OBR looked dumb.
I agree. The OBR was painfully, woefully uninteresting. Um, yeah, I was really hoping for Volkia, if I'm being
Sure.
honest.
Sure.
I was hoping that we'd see something heavy corn, and we just didn't.
We
So
just
it
keep
was,
passing that opportunity by. Resculpted Korg Skull, resculpted Volkia. We're just blowing these opportunities by. Who knows? Maybe we'll get it come forth. Like maybe they're waiting for the story to actually resolve, since this lady actually takes part in the sixth book. You know.
yeah, and I guess I assumed that Volkia would, right? Like I assumed that we would finally get their participation. So I don't know. It's fine. Like nothing really jumped out at me other than again that terrain piece was really interesting. I'm like, tell me more about this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, the like the little underworlds bands were kind of goofy but fun and interesting. The FEC were kind of boring, but the weird human guys who like lightning was fun. I thought she was pretty sweet. The Warcry stuff was like at best 50-50 for me, honestly, and I don't really love the Warcry warbands. As a whole, I find them kind of annoying because I just kind of find their like menagerie of base sizes and cavalcades of weirdos to be not my favorite types of units. But that being said, I mean, I think the biggest letdown, and I agree with you completely, was how do we not see a single model with the launch with the AOS 4 announcement? How?
It's baffling. Like if only
That's what you sell, right? You don't sell story. Company. Just real quick here. This is just for Games Workshop.
GW.
Hey, GW.
Come to Gamer 3.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, real quick, guys. You remember that you're in the business of selling models, right? And from those models are generated, like those models are the result, and around these models we tell stories and have rules so we can play with our little toys. But the models are the center of it. If you wanted to be solely a sort of fiction printing company or something, okay, by all means, go right ahead. I encourage you to join that dying media. But, like, what the hell? It's truly shocking. I don't mind the fact that they were a bit obtuse on, like, what the detail of the rules and launch and stuff would look like. That'll all roll out through articles. I get that. Right? But just, like, I don't need the launch box. Like, that would have been cool. You should have shown the launch box. They didn't, but that's fine. I don't need it. Okay?
Yeah.
I could, but like one model of each from that. They did that last year for 10th 40K. They showed the Terminator and the Termagon. Right? And they're like, there you go. They're like, what else is in the box? I don't know. What do you think is in the box? Like, well, the stuff in the trailer. That's what I think is in the box. Same thing I think here.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and that's fine. My imagination can work, right? But just show me something. Give me something to grab on.
How about silhouettes?
No. Show two models. The basic trooper in each box. Nothing special. Save the razzmatazz. Okay? Sure. For later. To drive them clicks. I get it. Whoever's in charge of website that has like the responsibility of farming clicks. I understand. Okay? But you know what'll get a lot of clicks? A couple cool models in the launch article. At any rate. Well, we beat them up enough for this. Sort of.
It's disappointing. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. At any rate, so, I mean, that's basically the news. I mean, that's been kind of everything. There's, other than that, it was Adepticon weekend, so Adepticon things happened. It was a lot of fun. Like, the Adepticon was truly, truly, truly a wonderful time. I enjoy it so much every year. I got to hang out with a bunch of people I really only get to see maybe at Adepticon or once or twice a year. I got to play some Commander with Haywo and a couple other guys. That was very fun. We had some great games. I got to do we played Magic like 2 of the nights. Tom,
Nice.
you would have loved this cube draft we did. We did a cube draft of with my particular buddy, who has a collection that would truly make most people weep. But it was an alpha through Alliance's cube draft. So like you've got 3 packs and you'll flip the pack over and it's like, well, what do I want out of this pack? Do I want the Black Lotus or the Mishra's Workshop or the Candelabra of Tanos or the Icatian Javelineer? And you'd be surprised how often you take that Icatian Javelineer. I'm just saying, it's a hot pick.
No, I get it.
It's not going to wheel necessarily.
Those red laces not working, not doing a lot of work. Got it.
So at any rate, it was a great time. Got to see a bunch of people. Got to teach a bunch of classes. All of that was fantastic, and really, really, really fun. Okay, so yeah, that was. I think that's all the news. There you go. Let's move on. As I grab my piece of paper over here to chart a timestamp. Okay. Tom, let's talk about some pick of the week. What would you like to share with everybody?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't real surprising, but obviously, friend of the show, Honest Wargamer Rob, is doing a bunch of 4.0 content. And so I always enjoy engaging Rob's various perspectives. And I enjoyed his kind of like, what do we know about 4th edition video that he did kind of on the other side of the announcements.
Okay, nice. Well, the one thing I didn't mention from AdeptCon that obviously did happen there was Golden Demon. And that relates to my pick of the week. I really didn't participate this year for obvious reasons. But obviously, I first want to give a shout out to my homie, my brother in arms, Mr. John Nenas, who, after many years of being a bridesmaid and getting to the finals, he got there, baby. He got there. Top 3. When they announced his name and it came up on screen, I don't know that I've ever been happier for a friend in my life. It was truly an amazing moment. And like myself and Scott and Sam all got up and we were just like hugging him in the aisle. It was really wonderful. It was just, I don't know. It was a really important moment. And I'm just really proud of him and all the work he put into that. And it was well earned and completely deserved. And then at the same time, Sam and Ben, 2 other people who I was there with, also took home some trophies as well. So it was all around a great win. Glorious victory for many people in my little paint queue. So that was great. And so John, Sam, and Ben all brought home some hardware. I was very happy to see that. I will say, Tom, I was less stressed than I have been at AdeptCon in years not competing.
Amazing.
It was
I bet
great.
it was delightful.
It was great. It did seem to be better run this year. Certainly logistically, it was a lot better run. I know who was in charge of running it, and they did a great job. I will say that. If they happen to watch this, they know who they are. Like from a logistics and operational perspective, it was absolutely fantastically smooth and efficient. So well done to that person who I know worked very, very, very hard on keeping everything running cleanly and smoothly. And there was, of course, Tom, it can't be Golden Demon without some controversy. Okay.
Of course.
And the controversy was one of the winners in one of the categories had a backdrop, and that backdrop was a printed backdrop. Now, first of all, you should already be not winning for a printed backdrop. That's a no-no in every contest I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Like you just don't print things out. It's an art contest. That's number one. That should just be like bargain basement. Everybody should know that. The figure, by the by, was exceptionally well painted.
With the printed background?
The figure itself is what I'm saying. The figure
Well,
itself.
what I'm saying, are you talking about the same piece?
Yeah.
The figure with a printed background.
The figure with a printed background. The figure was great. Okay, like it felt like the artist just should have buzzed the back of the whole thing off. It didn't need it. It really didn't need it. Okay, the piece could have stood on its own, right? But in addition to being a printed backdrop, it was also AI generated art. AI art is theft. That is simply what it is. It is not anything else. There's no 2 ways about it. It doesn't make up its own stuff. It steals. And so, Tom, you and I have been around. We've been in the magic world. And you know how much Wizards has been raked over the coals for even using AI art in like promotional materials, right? Not even like not on a Magic card or anything like that. I'm just talking like in a Facebook advertisement, right?
Yep.
And so that's just wild to me. That it's wild that it was a printed backdrop that won alone. I don't know how the judges would have necessarily known it was AI art. Like that's something that came to be known. But
there
a
was
printed
no fingers
backdrop
on there.
Right, yeah, exactly. There's not like somebody with 6 fingers just hanging out in the background, right? But like but the nature of it being printed should have honestly the piece was strong enough. Just cut the back of the thing off and enter your piece. Okay, let's stop it.
Yeah.
Or if you're gonna do a background, then paint one. Backgrounds are perfectly fine if you're using them to enhance the story. Yeah. So that was the controversy over that. They should put official rules in. That's what should happen, because they already don't allow you to do joint entries. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. That is to say, like I can't have somebody else sculpt something for me and then I paint it and enter it.
Yeah.
And so like they should just put in rules that say like, and AI is, what is that if not a joint entry, right? You're relying on thousands of other people instead of just one other one. So
yeah. But that Slayer sword though.
Oh, it's incredible. That's Alex, who's a great dude. Really, 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 really great guy. Talked to him for several years now. Got to hang out with him some. I told him straight up on like day one, it was one of my favorite pieces, if not my favorite piece in the case. I thought it was creative, original, fantastic. I was really, really happy to see the judges award something so creative and different with that. With the Slayer sword. That's very different than what we've seen in the past.
Were the glowing eyes mirrored?
Were the glowing eyes mirrored in the tree? No,
in the
on purpose.
Okay.
No, that thing did not go in. It did not show up in the mirror.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I talked to him about like what he chose to mirror and whatnot, and he like everything was thought very deeply about that. But truly an incredibly good.
I assume so. Yeah.
So. Somebody had asked, do they judge the background? Yes, of course. Everything you put on your entry is judged, period. I saw some people in comments and stuff talking about this, saying like, well, don't they just judge the figure? No. If they just judge the figure, that is insane. You present a piece, they judge the piece. That's one of the problems with Golden Demon, is that they judge everything. The more things you put on, the more elements you interact, the more chances you have to fail. And it's a technical subtractive contest where they look for flaws. So the more area, the more space, the more things you do, the more you introduce chances to make mistakes, to have flaws, and hence get your piece reduced. So they often, like the challenge with Golden Demon has always historically been that they don't really tend to award much in the way for creativity or risk taking. Like that's not, like you can look at the thing and go, well, this is a higher degree of difficulty. A lot of art shows, a lot of competitions that I judge, will judge on degree of difficulty, right? Like how complicated was the thing they were trying to do, right? That's not really part of Golden Demon. Okay. I mean, not really. I mean, category to category, they look at it differently, but within the category, they don't judge like that. Anyway, the pick of the week here that this is all related to is Cult of Paint, who is down below, who did a very excellent Golden Demon recap show with Taro, who took home, I think, 3 trophies. So way to go, Taro. Taro Model Maker, who is the plinth man, as many know him. He's like, if you've got a winning entry, it's probably on a Taro plinth. But he had a great time, and he also, by the by, had one of my favorite pieces. I talked to him some there when he was turning it in and the night afterward. It was a really, really great piece. I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but it's like the plane exploding. He has like this background with the faded the curve. It's meant to like create the image that the plane is really far away and they're like bailing out little goblins. I love the forced perspective. I love the use of the goblins. It's just a really, really creative piece. And that's what I love. I love seeing this stuff. Like I love when people take those like big creative swings, and then to see it actually get awarded this year was really wonderful. So I was very happy about that. All right. Anyways, that's enough about Golden Demon. Check out Call to Paint's episode. Andy and Henry and the gang are all there. Matt and Taro and everybody. And yeah, check it out. All right. Cool. With that, Tom, let's switch over to some hobby time. Obviously, I have not had a ton of time to work being at Adepticon from, literally before the last show until Sunday night. What about you? You weren't at Adepticon. You were also traveling, I know, last week. But what
I
you been
was.
working on?
I am. We have an event coming up here in Lexington in a couple weeks, and I have models that I need to paint for that. Like not a couple. Like I'm still like 18 models away.
Okay.
And not like 18 small models, like
Okay.
18 40 mil models.
Right.
And so I'm playing catch up, but it wouldn't be life. I was doing commissions for a while, and then I knew when I got back from my trip, like I had to transition to this in order to get it done for the event. So I'm working on that, and then I'll pivot back to the commission, and then I have a surprise project that I was not planning on doing that I'm going to be doing now.
Okay.
And so I'm not gonna detail that yet, but I had a friend reach out and send me a gift, and so I'm going to lean into doing that project that's associated with that as my next big arm. So
nice.
So FEC's been fun. But I may be pivoting pretty hard, just because we're at a new edition, and it doesn't matter how bad the rules are right now. We don't know what that's going to be in the new edition, right? For stuff, and
Could be anything. Could be a boat.
Could be a boat, and so I'm just gonna paint something that's interesting to me, even if the rules might be terrible in the current edition, because it can't be like that forever, right?
Well, we're gonna do a future show on that actually. How do you hobby? Getting your hobby ready for 4.0. We're gonna do a future show on that.
Yeah.
So
You can't, but that's fine.
Oh, I think there's some tips and tricks you can go for. I think there is a way. That's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. Cool. Okay. Cool. For my hobby time, I did get some work done though. I haven't been doing nothing. I'll just say that. First of all, you can see back here. There you go. That's the new Signature Series 5 and 6 paints from Flameon and Rogue Hobbies from Louise. So very excited to try out the new Pro Acryl paints. The new Siggy series are out. If you were looking to pick them up, I think you can. There's a link down below where you can use it. By the way, if you haven't hit like yet or subscribed or done all those things, hey, you should do that. Do all those fun things that make dings. It's great. Okay. So... but I'm excited to play with these. There's also another set of paints here underneath it. This is the... I'll actually show them. Here, hold on. So many paints. Okay, there's also these, which are the Atom paints, the Smart paints. Sure. From Big Child. These were Ruben Martinez helped develop these. Ruben Martinez, did you see the Alariel that won in AOS Large, Tom?
Nope.
She's gorgeous. Check her out. Really beautiful piece. Ruben's an incredible artist. Got to sit with him for a while and just paint and hang out, so that was a lot of fun. But these are some paints that he helped develop with Big Child and Ammo by Mig. So
nice.
that's where those come from. So I'm excited to give those a try. Excited to give my new Pro Acryl paints a try. Flameon, I love that he did like the entire set just of his non-metallic gold, since that's what he's known for. And I love that that Rogue Hobbies is just like the most intense color
Primaries.
set ever. Yeah, just like boom, punch you with saturated colors. These are going to be really exciting to paint with. So yeah, man, I've got a lot of exciting
I just
stuff.
have to say, like over the last 6 months, like I've just fallen in love with Pro Acryl.
Yeah. Of course.
Like it has moved to my favorite paint, I think. It's so funny because it started with you giving me a set. Oh, okay, I'll give it a try. And I remember the first time I busted out this purple, I was like, why hello.
That purple, I told you, man. That's what we did. It took a long time to get that purple right. Anyways, but I've also been working on my knight, so we're up to the body of the knight now. So there is where he is so far. We're doing a bunch of little decals and freehand and stuff like that. I don't know if you can really see it, but there's like the little Nurgle fly symbol there, and we've got the little skulls on his inside, and text and stuff and things like that. I'm working on one of the shoulder pads right now. I'm trying not to do too much freehand and stuff on this guy, because I don't want the freehand to actually be the main story, because I'm going to rust and chip and stuff the living bejesus out of this guy, so I want to leave lots of room for that story to be told. So I'm trying to restrain myself where I can, but you know how it is. I just can't help but be like, well, let's put some more stuff on there. Let's fill up some more space. Why not?
You do that very well.
Yeah, it's a thing. But, you know, I'm working on this night, and he's really, like, taking a long time because this is a very big night. And, like, I certainly hope this is certainly a competition vehicle I'm working on, right? And it makes me sad because he'll never go to Golden Demon. He's, like, immediately DQ'd, no matter how well I paint him. Okay?
Because of the wrong color scheme?
Yeah, because he doesn't match to any existing knight house, and I'm using actual, like, Nurgle symbols on a knight. And like, no, knights have their own evil fallen houses. They're not like just Nurgle knights, and it's like the 30k knight. So it's like, it's a lore nightmare, but it's what I want to paint. So who cares? Anyways, yeah. So, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. Okay, cool. I hope you all out there are also working and hobbying while we're sitting here rambling on. But let's get to.
I'm keeping it tight. I'm
Absolutely.
not rambling.
That's fine. Let's get to the real action, Tom. Let's get to it. The real action. AOS 4. Hopes, our dreams, our desires, all those things. Boom. Okay, let's get rid of Abraxia here. Celebrate the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar at the Mortal Realms Reforged. Wait, we want this article first. Here we go. There we go. Sorry, we'll start with this article.
Okay.
I'm just going to let the trailer play here. I'm going to mute it, but I'm going to let it play. So, Tom, what do you hope overall? Like, what are your high-level things based on what you've read so far?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think for me, like, the biggest thing is I need an edition that's simple enough that I can sit down with my kids and play. That we can have a fun afternoon game with a random army, and something that I can also has a low skill floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a very high skill ceiling that I can also then go and play in an event, right? And get to doing all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that tactics are coming back and battle tactics are coming back in some sense, but I hope that there's more restraint and control on those in the new edition. So one thing I already hated, I know is going to be in the new edition. I wish it wasn't, but hopefully that there's going to be some restraint that's shown there. I'm hopeful for that at least.
Okay.
I hope there's dice involved. I like it being a dice game.
Sure.
They haven't said anything about dice yet in the article.
I'm sure that there will be dice. I don't think we're spoiling anything. I think we can say with full confidence this will still remain a dice game.
I mean, it could be a deck game for all we know. Partial deck game. Sure. Like flipping up for activations or something. Go an old Battle Masters route. No, I like the trajectory that we're seeing with USRs, the Universal Special Rules.
Yep.
Okay. As long as they're restrained, which they say they're going to be, whatever that means. That's something that I can certainly get behind. I'm interested in the color coding, and to see if it's going to be like a Penelope of like a Skittles on a card, right, or on a page, or if it's something that's going to be usable. So that's interesting to me. So that moves it more towards like what we've seen with games like Underworlds and stuff like that, right? Like there's a lot of that like visual design they haven't done a lot of in this game in AOS, that like they have done that same type of like intentional visual design, like the UX, cultivation, or the UX development in other games like Underworlds. And so I'm excited to see them bring that into AOS.
Okay. I have to avoid getting stuck into this trailer as it was playing just because I love watching Skaven, Tom. I can't help myself. But that's
I know, I get it. No, I get it.
I mean, the number one thing I'm obviously most excited for is for new Skaven. We got there, folks. Mission accomplished. Unfurl the banner.
I don't care about Skaven at all.
I'm just saying, get excited, homie. We just brought our entire city up into the parch, okay, and other places too. Like we're here. That's it. That's
Well,
enough. So.
I mean, that's worth talking about. That like that was a real big surprise for me.
Sure. Like
That
they are
they're
changing the
telling,
face of the mortal realms in a big way.
yeah,
Right.
they're going back to Akshi.
Yeah.
Like they're not going
Sure.
somewhere else. They're not going to Olgu
Nope.
or anything like that. It's like, no, we're gonna go live in Akshi some more. That was surprising. Like I did not anticipate that.
Yeah. So, we're not going to watch an 18-minute video, that's for sure. I just wanted to see the trailer. So, I mean, obviously, what we'll eventually see with the models is basically just like we saw with 10th. It'll be those guys that were in the trailer, right? So everything we saw there, which is exciting. My hopes for it are, is that we do get something. I think you nailed it exactly. That is easy to play. They said a word in an article today. We'll get to, or today or yesterday, I don't know, whenever. That I was immediately excited about, which is modular. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna jump on something else they said today that was like that sent like waves of joy that I didn't know needed to be there.
Okay.
They killed Battleshock,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
and I was like, not that I like hate Battleshock, but either like it doesn't matter at all, or it matters everything.
Jettisoning it from the game is absolutely the best type of thing we could do. Yes. Like,
Right,
good, let's just
because
get rid of it.
like it was because it was always like okay, I've lost this math die roll, like inverse Thaco equation, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it was just not. And for most our mini armies, it never came into play, and for some armies, it was literally crippling.
Yeah, sure.
And so I just like seeing that. I was like, "Ooh, I like that."
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Like I'm glad that they leaned into that. Is what
Agreed.
I would say.
Agreed. But the modularity has me excited, Tom, because I'm hoping what that means is that we're fully building on like the battle pack type of thing that you and I have been talking about a lot, and having ways that we can like play the game in like that we can play the game in the way we want. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if that's what it allows, then I'm here for it 100%. Like that makes me very excited talking in those terms. Okay. Because I think that the game just got too complex. That's the reality of the thing. So if we're using this as an opportunity to strip things down, simplify things, all that kind of stuff, and then but still have a lot of rich choice points being made, which it seems like we're trying to move the choice points into what's happening in the game. They mentioned a lot more, being more reactive, right? Building on the reactivity of it, right? Great. Those are like in-game choice points, not Garbo rules things. So speaking of that, they mentioned the combat range change, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
it's just a 3-inch range, right?
Did you catch it in the in the thing today? It's not just that; it's also objective capture.
Yeah, that objective capture is a 40 mil thing on the table with a 3-inch thing around it. Right. So you're talking about smaller objectives, right?
Yeah, smaller. Yeah, like that. You're using that same 3-inch measurement, right, to figure out what your objective holders are.
Yep, absolutely. No, Anders, we have not yet discussed wounds becoming health. But it's fine. Okay, cool.
I wonder if they'll move to something simple as like, if like talking about like units or models counting as like multiple. Like we were seeing that tech later on.
Sure. I mean, I would imagine that it'll end up being something like what 40K does, where it's like you just simply have a like what 40K does is your models just have like an objective capture thing. It's what they like count as, I imagine it'll just be that or some version of that, something close to that, because like it's pretty straightforward and simple, and then they don't have to keep writing rules into the core rules, right? It can just be on the war.
I was just wondering if they would even simplify it more and be wounds on war scroll.
Oh, I don't know.
So like heroes are 5, some models are 1, some models are 2.
Maybe they could go that direction. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. That just feels like it would get way too swingy. I don't know. Like if with
Maybe.
all monsters are suddenly becoming Sons of Behemoth, it feels like that would be too out of control. Like, because you
I
would
don't
need a
know.
horde
Maybe.
to even stop any
No,
any
you just stop them
unreasonable.
from getting on the objective. Like you body, if it's only a 3 inch objective, you body them out.
Well,
They
it's a
have to eat
3-inch
through your unit.
radius off of the 40
Right, but
mil.
that's what I'm saying. Which is not difficult to like a 3. You're talking about a total of 6 inches.
No,
Like a
it's
20
more than
model.
that.
Like
There's a 40 mil. There's a 40 mil round in the center of that. But sure.
okay, sure. Like okay, so now we're talking about like a 8-inch radius objective. Like you could body that
Diameter,
out pretty
but I know what you mean.
diameter. Yeah. You could body that out with a block of 20 or 40 goblin, right? Like that's
Yeah,
not
I don't think that's like that. Just feels like it's gonna end up being too much math. I don't know.
maybe like, but it would simplify it, right? Because it's already a number printed on every single.
Sure. I just feel like the problem with that, Tom, is it's bad design. Because then
Okay.
you are necessarily tying one stat to another that doesn't need to be tied together. Okay.
Sure, but you're also not introducing something that's there.
It doesn't matter. Like, I'd rather have the number be separate because then I, as the designer, have some ability to move it around. Like, that's what they ended. Like I said, I'm going off the
Sure.
40K example, right? And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know that's worked pretty well as far as objective capture goes. So 40K has its own other interesting issues, but you know, there you go. Okay. All right. So yeah, Skaven Blight coming up. Did you catch this, Tom, in the initial article? At the same time, the Great Horned Rat has struck a deal with Archeon himself and ascended to his rightful place as the full 5th member of the Chaos Pantheon. Heck yeah.
Nope.
We're
Didn't
changing
catch
the
that.
actual Chaos Gods. It's not just the big 4 anymore. Number 5 is finally officially in. That's pretty exciting. That's actually cool. That's like actually a big change in the sort of macro view of the lore.
Yeah, that's new. I wonder what happened in K, if that hasn't happened yet, or if that is, like
Well, they
it
don't
just
have Skaven, so this it doesn't work
Right.
that way.
so it raises all kinds of questions, right? Like,
Well, it's
like
a different
if these
universe.
if this is a contiguous universe, that's one of the questions.
It's not. It's very much not.
Okay.
It's just its own. It's like different realities. It's all cool. We understand multiverses now. We've all got that. We get it. Right.
Sure.
But I'm stoked. Like this art is really
you-
cool here, by the way.
Did you catch the fact that the hammers of Heldenhammer, or the hammers, right, of Sigmar, are not the literal poster boys?
Yeah, absolutely.
That the Hollowed Knights have been thrust forward?
Yep. It's a better paint scheme. They finally realized the dudes that are in silver are a way better paint scheme.
I completely agree. I mean, it's like mine is a variant of that. Mine has always been a variant of Hollowed Knights because it is a better paint scheme.
Yeah.
Like it just looks better on the model. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, here's the part of the article where they talk about the core rules being, the being basically reforged. It's funny. Okay. Yeah, here you go. On top of all that, there are modular rules, plenty more opportunities for reactivity in your opponent's turn, being an updated system of command points and abilities, and a ton of tweaks and refinements. So yeah, and also saying, yes, the double turn is still there. I love that they're actually just calling it the double turn. They're like, no, look, enough of this, like, mincing around, calling it priority roll and stuff like that. We know what you're talking about. It's the double turn. It's what it is. Okay? Let's just stop. Let's own it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there you go.
But like in the newest article, if we're going to talk about the double turn, one of the
Yep.
things that they highlight is that from a scoring standpoint, it sounds like you don't get battle tactic points if you take the double.
It sounds like there's some kind of impact to it, yes, if you take the double.
Like you are limited on your scoring if you
Yeah.
take the double.
Yes. It
So
sounds like
basically,
there's a direct scoring impact to it, yeah.
yeah, it sounds like basically, like if you take the double, you only take the double if you know you're going to win.
Sure.
Or you think you can win, right?
I think you can win by bodying them off the table. Yeah. So that leads us to the next discussion, Tom. Here we go. Rebuilding the core rules means quite a lot has changed in every faction. In this new edition, has had its entire set of war scrolls and army rules updated and reworked. Each faction in the new edition will receive a free downloadable faction pack at launch. This is where, Tom, this is the thing that was the thing you were talking about earlier. We had an offline conversation. This is where they actually use the rules and explain that all of this is free. Including battle traits, sub-factions, enhancements, spell lores, and war scrolls for every unit. Okay? So we're getting free rules for everything for all of our armies at launch, or at or on launch, or closely after. They kind of like minced that a little bit around today. I would think they just release them all at once. Release the PDFs. Like, what do you got to do? Hit publish? How hard can this be?
The newest article was not as clear on it as this one. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so they said they'll have more details on what war scrolls look like, but let's talk about the indexing. I mean, this is the great indexing. We can jump over here to this article while we have this sub discussion. Let's go down this rabbit hole. After nearly 10 years in service, the rules for Warhammer Age of Sigmar are receiving their first ground up rewrite. Okay. Every single war scroll is changing. Blah, blah, blah. Miniatures can now fight in melee if they're within 3-inch combat range of opponents, which is good. Speeding up pile-in is important. That was one of the 2 places where this game wastes a lot of time. I will also say, Tom, that this removes one of the biggest garbage, like, skill testing things, which was, like, experienced players knew how to be super janky with their units to put them in goofball positions to maximize their attacks. Whereas most normal players did not do that. Okay? This just removes that. That's gone now.
I mean, does it? Like, it's everything within 3 inches.
Sure.
But there will be some worlds probably where they'll be janky, like,
it's much less. Much less. Because most models you'll just be fighting with, like, the whole unit. It's 3 inches is quite a lot, right? It's quite a lot.
I agree. Yeah, it's great.
Playing Skaven as it is now, like, you're playing with an army that, with your big units, you almost always have 3-inch reach. And so it's just like, okay, everybody fights. Right?
Yep.
So at any rate, let's talk about indexing. They said universal special rules are in, and there is a manageable amount, making them easy to recall. Boy, this word is doing a lot of heavy lifting. I'm going to set a number, Tom. Are you ready? Here's my number.
10?
Less than 20.
Less than 20. Okay.
Less than 20. If there is less than 20, then these things are fine. And I accept them, and they're good. If there is more than 20, they're bad. And I'm literally going to drive that hard line down.
What if there's less than 20, but they're Matryoshka dolls, and they're stacked?
Then there's not less than 20. Yeah. Yes. Like, as long as it's less than 20, we're fine. That is an ideal number. That is a manageable number. That's like your first strike, vigilance, trample, lifelink, et cetera, right?
Yep.
Haste, and so on, right? Okay. And like, I think that my personal take on it is they could be really good if it means we're standardized and these are the obvious things that need to be in there. Okay? Like, Tom, if you were going to picture a USR in the game, what would be your first pick? Like, what's your first pick for a sort of universal special rule? Let's say it's a combat-oriented thing, right?
Deadly strikes.
Okay.
Sixes to hit auto wound.
Like what Nighthaunt have?
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Yeah. And you use it for poisoned attacks. You use it for killer stuff. You use it for enchanted weapons. You use it for whatever.
Yep. Great. Perfect.
Deadly strikes. Done.
Sure. Absolutely.
Send it to the printer.
Yep. So cool. Good. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Fast
reflexes always strikes first.
Okay, now, let's talk about the indexing. How do you feel about the indexing? Let's opine on that for a moment.
We didn't finish that article.
We're not going to. We're talking about indexing here. I want to talk about indexing for a moment, since that's what this is the indexing article. Okay, they're all getting it. There, I scrolled down. Everything you can do in the game is now an ability: moving, fighting, shooting, casting spells to unique actions found in your war scrolls. These have a clear sequencing: a declare step and an effect step, as their timing is written out, color-coded, and uses symbols, making it incredibly easy to understand at a glance which phase you can perform each action and what it does. Tom, we got the stack. We got there, buddy. We got the stack.
We did. Like it was stunning to me that we like there. Like I saw that and I was like, oh, we're going here, huh? Like first in, last out. Like let's do this. Like with sequencing. I don't know. I just, yeah. This has the opportunity to go off the deep end with reactive stuff.
Okay.
Depending on how this is written, depending on how they write abilities in the future. Like I'm gonna plant my flag here. I'm excited about it, but this is a potential, like this is my yellow flag warning. This is a potential messy thing as we move forward.
Sure.
And it may create some vicious gotchas again as we move forward. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, we're introducing counterspell in some way into the game, right? So that's always a risk, right?
Correct.
I mean, Correct. We'll have to see what the reactive nature of these things look like, right?
Yep.
But I like the clear timing and stuff like that, so that's good. Okay. I will again pause our index discussion to read this next thing. Yes, Mike, I'm going to discuss it. The modular nature of the new rule set is something we'll explain more about in due course, but essentially the core rules are supported by a series of more advanced plug-and-play additions. Okay, like what I'm hearing here. This is good. This is what I've been wanting for the game forever. This is what I want. This is what I'm talking about with the Battle Pack thing. This is what we've been screaming for on this show for a long time. It's perfectly possible and quite satisfying to play without magic, for instance. And then, so new battle packs and general's handbooks can slot in the same way. So that tells me magic is one of the modular things we can remove, right? Obviously. My guess is there will be many more systems that I either like or don't like that we can slot in or remove, which is great.
Yeah. To me, like that raises questions.
Sure.
Because like, how do they do balance? Right? If magic isn't like in their point calculation. Like if you remove a modular system.
Sure.
Like it inherently like, so is magic then untethered from units?
No, I'm sure the points are probably tuned to the standard like matched play battle pack, which probably has some set assumption of modules in it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so like if you remove some of those, yes, things get wonky, right? Like you may be overpaying for some things or whatever, but it's probably tuned to that level because that's where you would set the points.
Right. No, I agree with that. So then, but I don't know how that's functionally going to change anything, because then what that means is that you can't use points if you're going to be tinkering with the core assumptions of the thing, because the points aren't actually going to accurately be a measure of anything.
Not necessarily. That's too far. Okay. It means that in certain cases you will be overpaying for stuff depending on what modules you remove. That's what it means directly. So like, for example, if you decide to go without magic, like let's say we're playing without this magic module, okay? Piece of advice, don't pay for the wizard scrolls.
Right, but what if the wizards have other essential abilities?
Then they must still be worth it if you still wanted to take them, but you'll be slightly overpaying for them. Okay? Like you just told me, but what if it's still good enough that I want to take it? That's the argument you just made.
No, what I was saying is that like GW historically has had a tendency to write in rules. Now, if there are only universal special rules and no non-universal special rules, like if we're only in a world of universal special rules,
which cannot be the case. It just can't be mathematically. Because if they're going to stay manageable, like that just can't be the case. You have like 1,000 war scrolls. They're not all just going to use the same,
variant
number
20
of USRs.
20 maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's what I'm saying. Maybe between that and numbers on rules, maybe they're trying to design a game that can do all of those things, that can fit within 20 Universal War Scrolls, and then have a bunch of variable numbers on hit, wound, save, wound, like health, all of the, like maybe they are trying to accomplish that. But if there are unique rules on War Scrolls,
yeah,
the challenge is going to be there will always be offerings in there that like the whole rest of the thing is shit, but because of those one or two rules, you want that thing.
potentially,
Right? Because it has
there can
because it
always
has
be
a
good
unique
utility on
role.
scrolls. Yes, sure.
It's a unique role in the army, and what I'm concerned about, right, is what happens with points assumptions in the midst of that. And at the end of the day, like, I love that the tech is in place, but I don't know how functional that tech will be to add and remove particularly.
It depends what the rest of the modules are. We're using magic here as the example, but that's like hugely impactful to the design of War Scrolls, right?
It is right now. Maybe it won't be, and that's the other thing I'm saying.
Sure.
We don't know. We don't know actually how heavy this stuff is or is not.
Yeah.
Like, this sounds terrible, but I can imagine a world where like you are considered a general piloting the army, and the magic is at your command, not at the command of any of the units on the table.
Yeah. Let me give you an easier example here, Tom. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say something like grand strats are a module. Like the use of grand strategy is a module.
Yeah.
Right? You turn that off, no points, like nothing changes as far as points goes. You're just not picking or using that thing. Okay. Right? That's the kind of stuff that could be in play here. Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
Not everything is points dependent. You're picking like potentially the heaviest module. Like they used a silly example here. They should have just talked more about this in this article. But nonetheless, like there's lots of things that could be modules outside the core rules, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, man. Endless spells. That could be a module.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Right, whether or not you're using those. Right? And a tournament could turn that on or off. Again,
yeah,
if it's turned off, it doesn't matter.
But will we is what I'm asking.
I don't know what TOs will do, man. That's for them to decide once the rules come out. They'll have the ability to, though, and they'll be licensed to. This gives people who are playing the game and or running the game license to do the thing. I mean, to be clear, technically, you always could have done this stuff, right? You always could have mutually agreed with your opponent not to do something, right? To take a no magic army or to just not use magic or whatever, right? That was always within our power. The real modules were in you all along. But what this does is it gives license, right, to players or TOs to do this thing. But that's my point. Like turning off something like these smaller modules like endless spells or grand strats or something like that, right? That doesn't affect the points at all. That's just literally turning off complicated aspects of the game.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. Like you could turn off the terrain, whatever the things are called.
Sure.
Stronghold, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like mystical terrain nonsense. Like that's a thing most of us as a community have already decided to turn off. So it'll just be a question of like what's here, what's in the core rules, what do these modules actually mean, right?
Yeah.
And like again, yeah, I mean exactly as Ardenthrone said, like how lots of people skip the special terrain. Yeah, I mean like that's already a thing people are already sort of using this modularity concept with, because most people just decide not to do it, right?
Yep.
So we're already comfortable with this.
So you're saying battle tactics can go. That's what I just heard you say. Is that they can just be removed, potentially jettisoned right out of the rule.
I mean, Tom, we can only hope. I mean, my God, please. If they're going to stay, as we know they are, let's make them a module. Okay? Let's do it. Like, absolutely.
Give the TOs the ability just to eject.
To yeet them into the sun. Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Before the new edition even launches.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, but it does raise the question of things, and as Andrew's things like faction terrain. Or even endless spells. Like I'm thinking about endless spells, particularly like faction endless spells. Let's say somebody said no endless spells. Sure. Well, where does that leave some armies that really like build around some of their endless spells, or Tzeentch, or right?
I mean, one has to imagine that they don't build around them in that particular list, and that hopefully the designers of the game were smart enough to make army paths that don't require you to have the endless spells. Right? Now, that's not all necessarily true, but that would be the hope, right? That's what you can do if you're redesigning everything from the ground up, right? You can know that you're going to turn those things off and then design accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, Tom.
Manzak just asked, do we think points will be updated? Hey, bud, everything's going to get updated.
Oh,
all
God, yes.
From
everything.
From the ground up.
Being that every tome is getting yeeted into the ash bin of history, like, yeah, I'll tell you one of my hopes right now as far as points go. That brings me to a hope, an AOS 4.0 hope.
Oh, are you scaling down the size of armies?
Yeah, I hope points get, like, way higher. Like, make everything way more expensive.
God,
like,
no. I would have so many points.
Base cost of Liberators, 5 of them for 200 points. Let's go. Okay? Let's do this. Let's do this.
Dude, I was finishing, like, the build and priming of some models for my FEC army yesterday. And, like, I was just, like I was, like, clawing through boxes of FEC stuff, either built or partially built. And I was like, okay, here's 60 of the Crypt Guard guys. And here's another 21 of the Crypt Horrors. And just wading my way through. And if they did that, I would have, like, 30,000 points of each army.
I see no issues.
Like,
Look, 4th and 5th edition, Tom, were a very happy time. Okay?
Yeah.
And listen, CW Kreiner, I hear you say leave your horde alone. You'll still have a horde. Your horde is just going to be readjusted. Your 20 dudes, that's going to be a horde, man. Okay? Like, that's a huge number of dudes. Maybe you've got one unit in the army that's like 40 or something. Like, that's crazy. Holy crap, that's a massive horde. You know, a Chaos army, right, in 5th edition was like 20 models total. Okay? That was the army.
Yeah.
That was like 2,000 points. Okay? A Daemonette was 36 points, Tom. All right? Let's just let that sink into your mind.
Yes,
okay?
10 of them is 360 points.
That's right, baby. That's right. Okay? I mean, they were initiative 6. Let's not... Okay, they were pretty good. But like, I like shrinking down the size of armies. I know this is like my hope for why this would happen. Like, I really would like to see, like, let me defend this in a non-hyperbolic fashion, because I really do think we need to, like, generally up the base points things are paying. Like, things do need to get more expensive. Is that we've spent a lot of time slowly, like, flushing everything down the toilet to where, like, the race to the bottom has happened. If you remember, Tom, at the start of 3rd edition, everything went up in points. And the justification was we don't pay for battalions anymore. Remember that was a thing we did in 2nd edition?
Yeah.
And they were like, everything went up in points, but you don't pay for battalions anymore, right? But, you know, now all of a... But now it'll roughly work out the same. It does not work out the same now. You get way too much crap on the table. Way too much crap. Okay? And...
I like my 10 units. My 12 units.
The issue with that is, I'm sure we all love having lots of toys. But Tom, here's the question. Okay, let me ask, because I see a bunch of people being like, no, I want all my toys. You don't take my toys from me.
I do.
I see this. Toys. Great, so I'm going to ask you all some real hard questions. 1. Okay? 1. And yes, I'm aware of the freaking, like, I get it, everybody. I understand what a business is and how they want to sell models, okay? Like, thank you for this lesson in business. All right? But, now, yeah, exactly. The Skaven player. Like, I'm happy to have less Skaven. Now, here's the number 1 question. Here's my question, Tom. I'm going to put this to everybody. Do you want faster games? Because lowering the model count is the number 1 way you get to faster games. Having more models, having more dice to roll, more things to move around, more abilities to forget, more abilities to remember, more things to use equals longer games.
Can I throw out a hot take here?
I'm not done. I'm not done.
Okay. Go ahead. That's fine.
Higher points equals shorter, more manageable time games. You want the game to play in under 3 hours? Okay? This is number one road to that path. All right? Number two, do you want new players to actually join this hobby and play it and build their armies? Or are you content to let it slowly atrophy and die and for your friends to eventually, and for all of us to give in to the heat death of the universe? Because the way you build the game is by making getting to a 2,000 point army or easier. Now, it's not the only way you do it. There's other ways. You need better on-ramps. That's where hopefully that spearhead, which we'll talk about later, comes in. Okay? I'm not saying it needs to go and be radically different. We don't need to go back to 5th edition. Okay? But, like, we also shouldn't be at where we are now. There's got to be a middle ground in the middle. And having it where there's an easy path that isn't like, oh, I want to play this army, but I've got to paint 200 models. Like, outside of a couple horde armies, that just shouldn't be the requirement. Right? That's number 2. Okay? Number 3 is, don't you want to say you've painted a bigger army? Look at what you'll be able to claim. All of a sudden, overnight, you can say, I painted another 2,000 points of your army. What a win! What an incredible win for you. How many points did you have before? 2,200. How many you got now? 3,000. What a win. You did such good work. Way to go, you. Okay? All right.
Yeah.
There's my argument.
My hot take is actually what Ravni suggested in the chat, which is this. I suspect that you're probably right. And I actually suspect that the spearheads are either half of a full army or they are a third of a full army.
Okay.
That's my suspicion. Which would suggest that oftentimes you have anywhere between 12 and 20 models being a half to a third of your full army.
Yeah. Yeah, hyperbole aside, I would like to see points increase by somewhere in the 25 to 30% range. That's joking aside. That's where I want to see it.
Yeah.
That
I
is
would
the
not
correct
be
number.
I would not be surprised if in this reset spearhead is half of your army. And so the idea is this: you start with a spearhead for whatever force you want, and then you buy a couple boxes, 2 to 3 boxes more of models, and you have a full army.
Yeah.
Of 2,000 points. I suspect that that's where they were going, is that the idea of spearheads is the core of what you need to start with, and then you add on to it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I hope that's the case. I hope that works out to, like, yeah, about a third of your army. I think that would be a nice number.
I don't want this to be true, but I suspect it probably will be. It will probably, the spearheads will probably be, again, in half to a third of your full army.
Yeah. Now, as a model company, like the counter argument that everybody in the chat is launching against me here is, but if they make armies huge, people buy more models, right? It's like, first of all, that isn't actually how things work. Like, that's not actually how you do a business case, okay? Because like, there's many complicated factors you put into a business case. You can't just assume everybody suddenly buys to the maximum amount of the army. When you increase the barrier of entry, you have to then lower the number of people who uptake in the thing. Like, there's lots of different components that go into factoring business cases as somebody who, like, has to do this on the regular. And the, so they can easily have a path that is actually more profitable by reducing the overall number of models in an army. Yeah. Okay? Because the actual path to selling more models and high profitability is, one, spearhead being really good and fun. Let's just start that. That's number one. They want this to be successful and they want to sell models. Make spearhead really good. Because the reason Magic sells those pre-con commander decks like gangbusters. Okay?
Yeah.
Because they're easy. People can play them very quick and simple. Right? And, like, if spearhead is really good and fun and compelling and interesting, then you open up the ability not just for people to go deep, like you described, Tom, where they buy the spearhead and then build on it to go deep in the army. But if that game mode is itself compelling, then you open up the ability for people to go wide.
Which, by the way, the next version of the Hatchet Stormbringer launch, like what the next AOS one, like when this cycle ends, what they're doing for 40K right now, the new edition 40K one is all So every month you just get a new combat patrol bot. And so for AOS, assuming they follow suit, which they have every time, what that means is that the next time that Hatchet magazine stuff launches, every month you would just get a new Spearhead box. So you'd get a bunch of different armies that can all play against each other.
Sure. Yeah, the opening up the ability of people to go broad is hugely profitable for them, right? Because if Spearhead's fun, if it's easy to collect, and it's easier for people to start new armies, they end up going wide, they end up buying more Spearheads, right? And that alone is worth more than a single box to them, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, you want to have the ability for people to go wide and deep into your game. Okay. Now, as to the skirmish game thing, I want to answer a couple comments here. My argument is that AOS is a war game, not a skirmish game. It already feels semi-skirmish, and now you want it to be even more skirmish-like. I mean, okay, I don't know, man. This game can have units of like 40 and 60 dudes, and I'm not saying that stops. I don't think of a game where I have a single unit that has 40 or 60 people as being a skirmish game. Like, a skirmish game is 12 models. All right. Now, certainly Sons of Batman has 4 models or whatever, right? So you can go that direction, and that's fine. I like that AOS has that wide variability, right? Where you can have 100 skeletons in an army, or you can have 4 models. Like, that's cool. I don't want that to go away, right? I just don't want people to be getting everything. Like, armies should be smaller, as I said, in the 25 to 30% range, right? Mm-hmm. Hyperbole aside, jokes aside. That's the real number. It just makes it more achievable.
Can we talk about Spearhead now? Or is this our Spearhead conversation?
Well, I want to talk about... that's fine. We can go back and talk about Spearhead. We'll go back to this article. We still haven't really talked about indexing.
Okay, that's fine. No, we can finish through the rest of this article. And go back to Spearhead.
So we got hooked up on this army size thing. Right. And so, there you go. But like, if Spearhead is fun, if they make the game actually playable at 1,000 points, then you really actually... you create the ability for people to go broad and deep, and that's my point. And that's actually how you make a lot of money. You do not make money. I mean, like, it's hilarious to me that people would think, like, the way that GW can make money is by making the rules difficult to actually... making the rules such that it becomes a high barrier of entry to finishing an army. That's not how you make money. Okay? Mm-hmm. GW makes money doing 2 things. Having an easily accessible game and making awesome models. That's it, folks. That's where they make money. When they make banger new kits, they make more money because they sell the crap out of those kits. That's how they make money. It's a very simple line goes up, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's it. Okay. All right, cool. Hey, by the way, if I haven't made you incredibly angry yet, hit like. Or maybe if I have. Hit like if you want to keep with larger armies. There you go. Or hit like if you want smaller armies. I don't know. Just hit like. It's fun and cool, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you putting up with our nonsense. I want to talk about this indexing, Tom, because I want your opinion on it. Like, we haven't talked about it at all yet, and this feels like the most controversial aspect of the whole thing. I didn't think army size was going to be the one we really got deep on. Okay. So, what do you think? I'm looking for your opinion. Talk to me, Tom. Share thoughts.
I mean, if I get all my war scrolls and I get all my faction rules and it's playable and I don't have to pay money for that, then I'm fine.
Okay, which is what the previous article said.
It's not what the current article said, but they were talking about physical product, and the way they used the language of indexing was of the new article. What I'll say is this. So I think that it's fine. It makes me sad because of the complete discontinuity with the prior books, but I understand the need for it. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at, I think. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I mean, it'll be fine. I worry about the FOMO that they're going to create with the index stuff, because it seems like they're tying War Scroll cards into that with tokens and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little bit concerned about, like, does that mean that if you don't buy it now, it's not going to be available for 2 to 3 years, like your thing? Because if that's the case, then it, like, you may miss out if it sells out. And GW has a terrible reprinting. So on one hand, it's going to create this really unfortunate incentive structure where everybody's going to have to rush out to buy all the armies that they're possibly going to want to play in the next 2 to 3 years.
If they want the physical thing. I mean, obviously,
if they want the physical thing.
Yeah.
But then inevitably, if you're rolling the dice on 4 that you love, that you have all the models for, so you go buy the indexes for those 4 things, inevitably in the roll of that dice, 1 or 2 of those are going to launch in the not too far distant future, and you don't know if that's going to be your army or not. And so It may create this. It may create the feel bad, right? Yeah. Of you buy the thing, and then 2 months later, suddenly it's the first book to release, and so you didn't actually need to buy that thing because it's been updated again, and so now you have to fork out another, in 60 days. And the problem is, because we don't have a release schedule, we have no way to actually evaluate what we should be buying and what we shouldn't.
Sure. Now, that's not to say when it comes out we won't have a roadmap. They could have a roadmap, but I understand it.
Maybe it would be great if they gave us the first year of releases just so that 100%. We know, right?
Yep.
But I mean, the other half of it is this: like, for folks like myself, like, I'm sitting on a solid 10 plus armies. Do I fork out $400 in indexes?
Okay.
Depending
on how much they cost you, who knows? Probably you're probably not that wrong. Who knows? Right,
like we're talking $400 to probably $500 in indexes for all these War Scrolls cards.
Yep.
That I just for the opportunity to maybe play my army. Yes, I have the PDF. I can get the PDFs and download them and everything, but like it's that other piece of it, right? And so it's for players who are deeply invested in the game, it's a real hard, like, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Okay. All right. Let's do a good side, bad side. Let's do a pros and cons list. Okay. Let's chart this out.
Sure.
Okay. So to me, let's or upsides, downsides, risks, opportunities, however you want to think about it, right? There's lots of different variants on this. To me, the obvious risks of the indexing. Let's talk about the feel bads, the hurts, the pains here, right?
And can I add one?
Go for it.
Like, because of the new color coding system, what that says to me is that having the actual War Scroll cards is going to be really important to have in front of you.
Well, I mean, you could always print the pages
because they're moving. Well, they're moving towards this visual design thing, is what I'm saying. So actually having, like, they're doing this new user experience visual design piece with the color coding, and so the format of how those things are actually portrayed seems to be way more important than it previously was. And so you probably will want to have the cards in front of you.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, it depends what the PDFs look like. If I could just print out the PDFs, like, I've got a color printer. Like, I don't know, man.
Maybe, but I don't know if the PDFs are going to be in, like, printable format or not, right?
Why wouldn't they be? It's a PDF. How would they be not?
Because when I've seen them do other similar PDFs, they're not in printer-friendly fashion where, like, you can just, like, cut out the card and have it be appropriately sized.
Okay.
Like, that's what I would be concerned about.
All right. I mean, I guess we'll see. I don't know. I print a lot of PDFs. I don't see any issues, but okay, sure. I guess it could be an issue if they don't do the proper layout and design work. So whoever's in charge of the InDesign for the PDFs, don't screw this up, right? Okay. Yes, exactly. Let's lay down. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Evan. Evan's there. He said by printer will work. That's right. Okay. Odd minis. Let's lay this down. What is going to be actually releasing with the indexes? What have they told us? Here's what we know. All existing books, gone. All points, all existing books, gone. Blown away. Thanos snap.
Yeah.
Okay?
Indeed.
At or near release, the factions will get indexes. These will be PDFs. The PDFs will contain all your stuff. It was back here in this other article. Let's go back to the actual thing. Here we go. A free downloadable faction pack. Each pack will contain all of the rules needed to play, battle traits, sub-factions, enhancements, spell lores, and war scrolls for every unit. Okay, so that's there. That's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. Okay. Now, at the same time, in this article today, they also said, where's the actual text? Here we go. You'll be able to buy physical faction packs from the outset, which will contain your army rule, sub-factions, enhancements, spell lores, and war scroll cards. Okay? So, same product. It's just the free version and the print version. Right? Now, could there be extra like tokens or something in the print version? I don't know, maybe. Right? I don't know. Could they look slightly different? Sure.
The assumption is it's some type of bound
Bound.
like PDF, bound PDF book,
sure,
with war scroll cards and potentially token.
Potentially.
Like the tokens or like whatever, or cards for your enhancements and items and all that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that seems like that's what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Like
so,
it doesn't seem like what we're talking about is just packs of war scroll cards.
No, I would assume it's like a little small booklet or something.
Like
maybe with like a little sheet on the back for your token sheet, maybe. That could be what's different, right? I don't know. Okay. So you've got free version, all your rules. All rules, all free. PDFs.
Yep.
And you have a printed version which costs money, right? For obvious reasons. Okay.
Right.
Now, so that's your choice when this launches, right? I mean, I know which one I'm picking. I'll pick the free one. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I'm not spending money on this. I got a printer. It's cheap. Okay? Like pretty straightforward. Now, let's break out the SWOT, okay? To me, let's talk about where the pain is first. If you are, and this, I saw a ton of this on Facebook, of course, because I was looking around before the show at reaction, so I decided to venture into the cesspool of Facebook and actually read people's responses.
Delightful.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you brought the most common comment by far was, well, I just bought FEC, that sucks, or whatever, right? Something about that. Yeah. And like, yeah, man. Yeah, man. You know, FEC obviously got pushed way back. You know, all that stuff got pushed back because of the schedule last year or whatever. And that really sucks. Because the FEC people went out, they got their book, they got their cool collector's box or whatever it was, and then blam. You get like a couple months with it, right? Yep. That sucks. You know, like there's no two ways about that. It's not great. Right? So like that is a danger. Now let's talk about that is a pain point, I should say. Not a danger, that's a pain point, right? Let's talk about the actual risks with this thing. Okay? The risks with this thing is if the index is not well play tested and balanced, then this is a nightmare. Right? Because you have these like horrible growth imbalances and it's very hard to adjust.
Well, let's say there are imbalances. Let's imagine a world where that happens.
Sure.
So are we FAQing everything that gets launched within 2 weeks of release? 4 weeks? 6 weeks? Because it's the entire game.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, assumingly we still have our FAQ cycle and battle scroll cycle and stuff like that. I don't think that would change.
Okay. And then if there is gross imbalances, it then invalidates just made for anybody that's bought into the indexes. Like with the war scroll cards. Sure. The reason why this is important is because it's not just a single release, which is what we normally have. We normally have a single book that comes out, and then all the scrutiny of the communities on that book, right?
Sure.
And we may have corrections and adjustments to war scrolls or whatever 2 to 3 weeks afterwards for that book.
Mm-hmm.
But we're launching 20 books simultaneously
Sure.
with War Scroll cards and product support for those 20 books simultaneously.
Yep.
And so what's the odds that everything gets caught in the first 2 weeks?
Well, you're assuming that people aren't looking at it now or whatever, that they're not working in advance,
Right.
that they didn't do the development. Like the question is, again, I don't know what the odds are. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What I know is that that's the risk profile. Right. Like, as with the release of any product, if you allow escapes, i.e., bugs or imbalance, in our case, bugs are imbalances, right? Like horribly misadjusted rules or imbalances, right? Then you got to go back and fix them. Then it's rough, right? It's rough. The part of a reason why I would stick to the free PDFs is because I imagine no matter how well balanced it is, there's going to be changes. That's simply the reality of the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know they have a formal developer now. I'm sure that formal developer has worked very hard on this edition. That's great. They actually have that person in the role. I know Matt Rose, who was all over the video, is an incredibly talented designer, the head of, the AOS studio. He's incredibly talented. And I know he has really pushed them to institute better processes. Like, this is all stuff the 40K studio didn't have when they released their index at 10th. That's why I don't buy the analogy. Like, I know a lot of people say, well, in 40K 10th, all this stuff was bad, hence this will be bad. No. Okay. That's like, that's like comparing some political event in two different countries. It's two different systems of government. They're going to be different, right? Okay.
Right. Like, anybody that has any exposure to, like, product lines, right? You have two different product managers, right? And you have two different teams and all of that. So, like, these are not the same products. It's not the same people handling the same product. Like, it really is apples and oranges.
Absolutely. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be great. I'm not giving them a pass, right?
Right.
I am saying
but it has to be judged on its own merits.
Correct. And I'm saying that, like, one being questionable, highly questionable, as the 40K indexing and launch was, does not immediately equal AOS's will be trash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It means, right? Like, it means that this team, this design team, which is a different product manager and has a different process and well-instituted QA and stuff like that, and has gone through a completely different process of development because of what Matt has put in place, okay, has a chance to be different. How different will it be? I don't know. Could it still be a train wreck? Yeah, of course. I don't know, man. It's still Gain Workshop, right? But I don't automatically assume the negative. Like, you can't go into this assuming the negative. It's a good team. Mm-hmm. They've worked hard on this. Like, I'm going to give them at least the benefit of the doubt. That's what I'll give them. Now, if it turns out to be horribly off, then
we're going to say that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadis 10th didn't release with all that. They don't have a formal developer on their team. They didn't have a lot of the things I'm describing in their processes. They just didn't. Like, I know what their development design teams look like. Like, they didn't have those things. Again, I'm not saying that equals it's good. I'm just saying it doesn't equal it's bad. That's the logical fallacy.
Yeah.
But it's a risk. It's a huge risk. We got to be clear about that, right? Now, if the index is good, that's an opportunity because it's a great time. Yeah. It's cool. You've got everybody out. Everybody's got rules. Everybody's got new rules. Everybody's on roughly even footing. So again, if the reward, if you have a good index, is that you have a bunch of, like, relatively fun ways to play. Like, everybody has a fun time, right? Within sort of bounds. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, no problem, Sadis. All good. But it is a big endeavor. It's a lot of armies. It's 24, 25 armies, whatever we're dealing with here, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not a small amount of work. Assumingly this has been in development for about 2 years, probably, right? So, we'll see.
One would hope.
Yeah, I would imagine that's usually the lead up time on stuff like this, right? especially big edition changes like this, where they're actually rewriting everything. And I'll take that assistant ref. I'll take pretty decent. Like if we get pretty decent's pretty good. But we'll see. I think the other advantage here that I actually do really like, Tom, is that for the first time ever, we have a chance to redefine one of the things the indexes will do, for sure, okay, is it gives the team the opportunity to redefine these war scrolls and their roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Like, this is a thing that we often have had a lot of anchor bias on in, like, edition to edition. They could go in and they could start tinkering with rules. Like, they mentioned something about in the video, like lining stuff up and redoing health, right? So that the wounds effectively, right? And kind of reorienting that stuff, seeing more like variance amongst units, you know, things like that. And so this gives them a chance to do what I have been pushing for, what I know, Tom, you've been pushing for basically ever, which is, can we please have units get put in the books that have a more clear role? Like, this is the mobile hammer or the anti-infantry hammer or whatever, right? This is my monster killer hammer. This is my anti-charge, you know, anvil that can take the charge and break it for then, so then I can beta charge or whatever, right? So, like, that is this they have a golden opportunity here to do that. That is my real hope, is that they actually capitalize on that.
Agreed.
Because we just haven't had the chance to do that in forever.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we will, for the Sigmar.
You cut out there completely. You'll have to re-say it. You turned to the side, and then your mic stopped picking up what you were saying. Say it again.
It'll be never again for the likes of the Sigmar. Right? That's what this allows. Abominations like that don't have an appropriate floor on points because of the content of the war scroll itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can fix all that. We can wave, it is a blank canvas. We can wave the wand and recreate that. It also means that whatever army compositions you have now, sorry folks.
Oh, sure.
If you've bought things like with something in mind, some set of combination, some set of synergy, that doesn't exist anymore. That's not a thing. Because who knows if you're dealing in what I'm most interested in, actually, assuming all this rebalancing is happening.
Sure.
I'm interested to see how and which armies transform. Okay. Because
keep going. I'm interested.
I have not forgotten the great winnowing of the Fire Slayers.
Okay.
When they went from a 120 model to 40 to 60, maybe.
Sure. Because of the all moving to 2 wounds. Yeah.
They all moved to 2 wounds. Points jumped up on Fire. And the entire army got reinvented because of fundamental war scroll rewrite.
Sure.
Right? And I know.
I mean, let's be honest. Baller move in AOS 4, put them back to 1 wound each. They're little guys. Make them 1 health. Make them 1 health each. Let's do this. Let's go.
Maybe. But what I'm saying is that we will see some armies completely reinvented.
Sure.
Like in the reimagining. Like, this is part of the world we live in. Yeah. Hell, Spider Riders could be amazing in this new edition.
Well, hold on. That leads me to my next question, Tom. Here we go. Okay.
What gets retired?
I mean, when we're rebalancing and re-rolling, this gives them, if they're rewriting everything from the ground up, I have to believe some stuff doesn't make the cut, right? We have to at least cut some war scrolls here, right? I don't know if I don't know if an army's going to go or not. You can launch your guess on that. But like, I have to believe we're gonna retire some more scrolls from some factions, right? We just got some bloated factions.
So
Right?
what? So like, give me some war scrolls that you think will no longer see the light.
Oh, I don't know, man. Pick anybody in like the big I have more than 70 scroll armies, right? Like, I'll be honest, with the Skaven resculpt, it would shock me if everything from Skaven made the jump. Like that's
Sure.
an easy statement. Okay.
Sure.
Like there's so many goofball weapon teams and stuff like that. Are those all coming across the line? I don't know, man. Right?
Relatedly, I would be surprised if we're getting a new resculpt um, of the core Stormcast. I would be surprised if like like in the resculpt we have like differentiated war scrolls between judicators with bows and crossbows.
Okay.
Like I would suspect that we're going to get a liberator or judicator kit that can cut either way if they even have judicators, right?
Sure.
Um,
Sure. I mean,
because we could
I
we have
I
we
think
have
there's some people in the chat who are like, you're crazy. They'd never cut Stormcast, but like, I don't know, man. I hope they cut Stormcast is my honest answer. Like, there's too many scrolls in that army.
And they have old like if they're redoing the core stuff, I could see paladins going. Like the old school paladins with Star Soul maces.
Sure.
Like that entire line, right? Which was always problematic from the beginning. If visually it doesn't fit with the army because they're fat boys now. Like I could imagine them having a new type of paladin that is kind of filling that role in the new kit, but without all the build up.
Sure. Sure.
Like that's a very likely. I hate to say it, but I could see the death of Beastmen.
Wow. Like any particular reason why? I don't know. It seems like a fairly popular army.
Because it's an army that needs an entire, like in order, like it is as old as many of the Skaven sculpts.
Okay.
Like that's what you're talking about,
Sure.
right? And it's not going to have this. And you have the old stuff, right, which it now has a home for, so it can be retired appropriately to that. Likewise, I don't think my spiders are long for this war, to be clear. Like I think in Orcs and Goblins, I think we could see the retiring of the Spider Rider and Arachnarok kits. Okay. That would not surprise me, because again, the visual design language of the Force Goblins is very different than the design language of your Night Goblins and your Squigs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And Justice, we already have trolls, and trolls have a home there. We have squigs, and we have night goblins. Like, we often have like a tripartite portions of armies. Spiders are ancillary. They just are to the larger ONG or the large, Moon Clan. Like you could have like I could see them. I could see those kits being retired. Is what I would say. I hate to see them go, but I could see it happen.
What do you think about this? Max C in the chat said S2D could easily see some of the Warcry warbands cut. They tend to be pinch points in balance. See Splintered Fang and Iron Golems back in second, right? Do you think there's any chance of something like that?
Probably not. I don't know. Maybe not. I think more than the Warcry, I think the Underworld's warbands are likely to be cut.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I could see that.
Like many of your, like we've already seen this. Not Jarian. The Flayed Duke or whatever. The Fire Slayer one. Not Fire Slayer. Sorry, the FEC Underworld's warband. I think it was the first one that they launched, or I think it was. It was in like the second or third expansion. That's not in the new book. It's just gone. It literally got written out of existence. For Underworld. So sure. I would suspect that that's our trajectory.
Okay.
That for Underworld, we are not likely to see them continuing moving forward.
Okay.
So I know that's a bold claim, but I think that like that's probably what will happen. I think that we're going to lose our Bone Splitters. Like we've known that, but I think they're gone.
I mean, that's been a thing we've been saying for a while. That That really feels like something that's going to happen. I mean, who knows? But boy, does it feel like that's the case.
Like we have our brutal, um, we have our brutal but cunning,
And our cunning but brutal. Yeah.
and we have our cunning but brutal, right? Like we have the two sides of more.
Yeah.
Mork and
Gork and Mork. Oh, did Tom freeze? Am I froze? Let's see. What happened?
did I lose you? Yeah.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
Okay. So like I could see like bone splitters don't fit into that paradigm, like for the army mirroring like the lore there. I could see that going. We just got largely a nice refresh of Slaves to Darkness, so I don't see any big cuts there other than possibly the monsters.
Okay.
Like
some of the aging monster kits or whatever.
Mutalith Vortex Beast, beautiful kit, but I mean it. Like I could see something like that going. The what's the big half machine, half demon?
The 40K guy who snuck in.
Yes, the 40K guy who snuck in a long time ago.
Sure.
With the big claw in the
yes.
short range gun. Like I could see that going. Like I could see just a calling, right, of these older kits that don't have like a clear home in AOF.
Yes,
yeah.
W Husk, the Soul Grinder. That is correct. That is what he's referencing.
Yeah. For Cities of Sigmar, it makes me wonder if we see any major changes. We might not, but because of the non-human stuff, still feels kind of patched in. Like it just makes me wonder. Like, is something happening? Is something going to happen?
I don't know. I feel like with cities, they got to keep those other elements in there, or it undermines the whole point of the thing. Like they show up in the stories regularly enough. Like they're part of it. So I don't know.
Maybe. Like
Robert Curtis says, "Wait, this is the Soul Grinder in AOS." Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy, it is.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, I mean, I think that I think a lot of that. I think that we'll see Regiment to Renown carry in that will likely replace our vision of allies in the new world.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
And with that, like, here's the deal. Like, this is going to be sacrilege, but I can imagine a world where Daughters of Cain Regiment and Caradron Overlords regiments and Fireslayer regiments and Lumineth regiments all replace your dwarves and elves in cities. Like they have special like inclusion rules.
Sure.
For the regiments, right? Like that doesn't seem like that much of a reach, and you could get at the same narrative thing by utilizing those regiments and just killing those aspects of those lines.
Sure.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Real quick here, Ben Staffordson said, also I hope the Soul Grinder gets a new model just to spite you. New gorgeous sculpt just because. Yeah, man, I hope so too. That'd be amazing. Because I love the Soul Grinder. I have multiple of them. But the problem with the Soul Grinder is and always has been the sculpt. Because it's required to be on a 160 mil round because of its dumb wide stance.
And so you could have 6 Archeons. Like that's what we're talking about.
That is just too big of a base for a 8 or 10 inch move walking model, right? It just gets caught up on everything, so it's just useless fundamentally because of its size. So if they like resculpted it and it was on like just a standard chariot base in some way or something like that, that would be amazing, and it could be a useful model, right? So there you go.
Yeah. So those are all things I could see trimming and tightening the books, with and streamlining what the offerings are. Like that, none of those changes that I just trotted out would surprise me, because again, we're in a reimagining. We're in a reimagining of what it means to be AOS now.
Yep.
And so to get rid of like the hanger-ons, right? They've given it a decade. right? Like
Yeah,
they've
sure.
given us a decade of dispossessed models.
I
Um,
I think stuff like that though still stays in the world because I think it is. I think there is some of those things can still have life. That's my statement. That's what it comes down to.
maybe,
But we'll see.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. But what I'm saying is that if they're wanting to lean into the of it all, right? They may want to lean into those lines that they actually made models for in the last 10 years.
Sure.
Like,
Oh, here's a good question. Ramium says, do you think we'll see a big decrease in the number of weapon profiles per war scroll? Ramium, let me say this. I hope so. There's
yeah.
a hope for AOS 4.0. Simplify weapon profiles wherever you can. Like, yes, please. Yes, please. Like, obviously, if you've got like a guy on a mount, you got to have like the guy or gal and the mount. Okay, so like I get it. The pony kicks are different than person with sword. Like I'm accepting of that. But like, yeah, let's go for it. Any other thing, just shrink it down. Absolutely.
We don't need front hooves, back kick,
Right.
and horse bite, right? Like that. Like that's no, we don't need that. Um, claws and fangs is the right answer for most mounts.
Right.
Related to that though, I could see I like yeah, there's a lot of units out there that just need to be thinned down.
Sure. 100%. Like
And this is the opportunity, right? Like this is the opportunity to do that, to unify the rules, to tighten the war scroll offerings, to balance the battlefield roles.
100%.
Right? Like we could live in a world where and I don't know that people are actually thinking through the consequences of rewrite, but like we could realistically live in a world where like this idea of like reinforcing units is nonsensical.
Sure. Sure.
Or like battle line unit may like ipsum lorem text.
Sure. Sure.
Like
we don't know what army construction looks like, right? It could be completely different. It could have none of the same rules. Yeah. So like the whole concept of all of that could be gone. Yeah, 100%.
Right. So like all of that is fair game. And so I'd just be curious to see what design elements have been learned from other wings of GW.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, yes, 40K, but also Old World. Like, what have they picked up on that? Now the problem is that the design would have had to have happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so like things that we like now or don't like in those systems, they wouldn't have had time to change it.
Sure. Yeah, yes, exactly. Assistant ref. They said streamlined army creation or something, so who knows what that means. Yeah, I agree. Like that's what I'm saying. We don't know anything about what it means yet. So like
here's a weird
could mean
idea.
anything.
There's a high likelihood that just all faction terrain is gone.
I guess. I don't know. Why do you say?
Well, because we know that the plastic on those models, those are China productions. Those aren't GW local productions.
Sure.
And some of them haven't been in stock for 8 months. Like, have you tried to get a Loon Shrine recently?
I understand. I know. Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Like,
you're not wrong.
Like, it's a real problem. And so that may have just pointed towards, like, we're not going to another bout of that because we're moving away from that. Or that's a module of the strong point. So here's an easy way that they could twist the new rule set to say, or what's the new rules that are in the, what are they called? Not strongholds, but
the strong points. You're talking about what was in the new.
Is it okay? So it is strong points. Yeah. I had the right word.
Yeah, you did.
Imagine this: all current faction terrain become strong points that you can actually build with, and that's a modular system, right? So if you have those things now, great. It's just another version of a strong point that could be included when you're building your army, or when you're assembling your tabletop, or however. If you're going to use, let me say it this way, if you're using the strong points module, you can include any of these terrain pieces, which would include all of their faction terrain. And so you don't need those things actively in order to play the game.
I could see
Like
them. Here's what I'll say. I could see them changing the way these things are used, making them modular, making it cost something, making it be some kind of like thing you have to factor into your list or make some decision. Like I could see them making a decision point around it. That's really what's at base
Right.
here, right? If we get down to the base
Right.
of this, what we're talking about is there a decision point? Like right now, there's no decision point around your faction terrain.
Right. If you have this army, you have this piece of terrain.
Right. So
Right.
could it become a decision point? Sure. Like that seems possible. I don't see it going away because, as many people in the chat have just pointed out, they just revealed a brand new piece of faction terrain for S2D.
What is it? S2D or is it all factions?
No, it's S2D. It's the chaos thing. They specifically called it a Slaves to Darkness terrain piece.
Okay. Well, the sense that I got was that it was a universal chaos piece that could be taken that corrupts things around it. I didn't get the sense that it was S2D only.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. But like I believe they actually say that in it. But either way, right? It's like,
and
so
and by the way, you telling me that it's in the Dawnbringer Crusade or whatever means nothing to me as its continuity into 4th edition, given that they just launched my FEC book.
Again, you're not wrong. It's a completely fair point. That's a completely fair point. Okay.
And by the way, let me just say, it doesn't change the fact that, like, yes, it could be S2D right now in 3rd edition, but it could just be another strong point option build in 4th edition.
Sure.
And so the continuity maintains there.
Let's talk Spearhead, Tom.
Okay.
Now we're on to Spearhead. Okay,
I'm
me too.
So excited.
I am like legitimately excited about this. Yes, 100%. Okay, so let's lay down the groundwork first for everybody so they're all on the same page. Spearhead is going to be basically it's a game mode, right? That you can play, and you use the exact contents of your Spearhead, or basically what your Vanguard box is now. Use the contents of that box against somebody else, right? It says one-on-one, small scale. The Spearhead is a fun, exquisitely balanced. Oh, exquisitely balanced. Oh boy, I hope that's true. Version. Otherwise, that's gonna bite you. Version of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Introduce new game to the beginners.
Little bit loaded.
Yes, of course. Yeah, really. Takes advantage of the new modular core rules to introduce a unique tactical spin. The design studio absolutely love it, and it's become one of the most popular games to play in lunch hours and after work around the office. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So that's fine. Let's talk about Spearhead. Why are you excited, Tom?
Well, one, I love that, like, we know what Spearhead is. So initially I was like, oh, I need to. And so we know we had 3 of them. They've released 3 Spearhead boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But in the image of what Spearhead is, and in the description of the video, it seems to correspond to the graphic they posted of #new AOS, which a lot of the boxes are actually just simply the Vanguard boxes.
Yeah.
So like it's either the Vanguard boxes or the so like if you want to know what the contents of Spearhead seem to be, go look at the graphic on the first announcement, where like of the new edition, where they had the like hope.
That's what I have up right now. Yeah. That's what this is.
Like that image itself is like a wonderful picture to get an idea of what we're talking about. Okay. Yeah. I love it because it's a wonderful opportunity for my kids and I to pick up and play a bunch of different armies and paint a bunch of tight boxes and to have like cohesive rules if it truly is balanced like they're saying it. Again, I'm assuming. Let's
take their word for it right now. Again, facts not in evidence, right? We'll evaluate that as a community. But sure, they're saying they worked really hard to balance all these boxes against each other. Okay, I'll believe you for now. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. This is going to be a trust but verify situation, but all right, sure.
Yeah. What I'll say is this. I like the size of it. like in almost every instance, it's 4 units, oftentimes 1 hero and 3 other units.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere between.
If you're going to switch to that mic, Tom, you cannot touch your keyboard because that's what you were doing. You were on your other mic, and the problem is the way your gain or your sound floor is set, you'll cut out every so often when you're talking. You can switch to this mic. I'm okay with it because you saw the comment, and I thank you for trying to stop it. But if you touch that thing and make that scratchy noise, I'm going to reach this computer and strangle you. Continue.
Yeah,
Keep your hands off your desk.
I've been noticing the comments couple shows that I've been on where of me touching it. So,
by the way, it still happens. Like your mic will still probably cut even with this mic. It has nothing to do with the mic. It has to do with your audio recording settings in your system, like in your sound settings. Continue.
Cool, excellent. Just what I like to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, what I'll say is this: I think I also had a lot of hope for 1,000-point games, and I had a lot of hope for. What was the one thing it was called previously for the 1,000-point
meeting engagements?
Meeting engagements or whatever. Like we've done this song and dance before, and we still haven't mastered it. And so we'll see if we get there. I think it's neat that they are basically playing on a Warcry board. Like you have my attention, right? Like it would be fast and furious and deadly if that's indeed the meeting engagement space.
Yeah, if we're playing on a Warcry board, that is an interesting time. Yeah.
Right? Because that's what this is. That's what this is. Like, that is, I see that Storm Strike Chariot, and I was like, I see you there, and being able to run this entire table. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see what they end up doing with it. And I'm excited for it. And it makes me want to start painting, a bunch of different, or making sure, going through the armies in the picture, making sure that I have.
Yeah, do I have everything already in my army to just play the... Yeah, because you don't need to buy the box. If you just have the contents of the box, you're ready to go, right? Like, you have your spearhead force. Absolutely. Bruce Stewart said, how do these Vanguard boxes translate to points? Like in Path to Glory, P2G was also supposed to be balanced. What would make this more balanced versus P2G? Well, first of all, Path to Glory is way more complicated than the base game. Like, it just adds a bunch of extra stuff. Path to Glory is not actually a good introduction mode to the game. It has no direct correlation into it. It's a fun narrative thing for people who want to do that thing, but it adds a ton of rules because narrative is actually more complicated than match play. It's not a good way to introduce people to the game. That'd be like introducing people to Magic using the Plane Chase deck or something insane like that. Like, no, it's not how you play, right? Because what this will mean, like they said in one of the other things, like spearhead rules are separate, right? Like they mentioned that. So like this could have other balancing mechanics in it. The actual points in the box don't necessarily matter because the war scrolls for spearhead could be slightly different. The choices you make for spearhead could be different. Like
deployment
could be different.
In the one interview, the one guy talked about like the spearheads themselves tell a story, right? And they used the Stormcast example that, like, yes, in your 5-round game, Yndrasta doesn't show up until turn 3. Ever. Like, you don't deploy Yndrasta on the table. She turns up in turn 3. Right? And so... like,
she is herself a catch-up mechanic who comes in late and has to, like, do a bunch of work. Yeah.
She has to do a bunch of work. And, and that's part of the design. That's part of the design of the box itself. And so the points may not matter. Like, it doesn't matter... points because her points only half count because she's only there for half the game. Right.
So there could be all sorts of deployment stuff like that. All kinds of wackiness, right? Where like certain units don't show up or whatever, right? Okay. So, I mean, I'm very excited about this mode of the game. If it's actually a good introduction to how to play OS, if it like the way to do this that would be good and what I hope they do. And they kind of made mention of this a little bit here in the description, right?
Yeah.
Like, if this, to go back to the modularity thing, right? If this basically, if Spearhead, like, uses the core, let's say whatever the core rules are, right? And it has ways to, like, introduce people to the modules in some kind of way, if there's some kind of ramp to, like, you know, here's how these things work in simple fashion so you can kind of get what they are, right? Then this is successful as an on-ramp, right? That's what I hope is there. Now, that has nothing to do with whether or not the game is fun on its own, right? Because it could be perfectly fun and balanced and good on its own, but not be a good on-ramp into the full game, right? That's Warcry or something, right? Like, Warcry is a perfectly fun game. I like Warcry. I think it's a well-designed game. It teaches you nothing about playing AOS, right?
No. And Path to Glory, what's interesting is that they made it very clear that Path to Glory was going to be about leveling up or developing your characters and your unit for campaign play.
Right.
And so it'll be like, so Path to Glory itself has been redesigned for this new edition. And so I'm interested. I'm interested to see how they differentiate these things and how these things fit in.
Yeah, sure.
So
Dougie Fresh, that's assuming facts not in evidence, my dog. He said the best part about this mode, no darn giants. I don't know, man. I wouldn't say we don't know that's the case.
Yeah, you may have like a gate breaker versus an entire thing. Like he's like, I'm a house, bring it, boys. Because again, you're on like a Warcry board. So
Sure.
He's just gonna occupy his quadrant.
Yeah. I guess we'll figure it out. Lord Zev said, my worry is time used to design Spearhead will be time not spent on the main game, and the main game will suffer due to time spent on a niche game mode. Maybe. Depends how different it is. I mean, certainly that is a risk. You're not wrong.
Well, ideally, like the neat thing here is that it seems like they have full control of all the levers and knobs here, right? And so they have a very controlled environment for Spearhead. Because it does not seem like you can't, there's no variability of like subbing in and out units and stuff like that. And so they can calculate mathematically what is the output of the entire box, every single unit. Like that is an environment that they can control. And so they can actually fine tune that quite well, in fact.
Sure.
And once they finish that, once they have the standards, right, their development standard of this is what we want performance to be, if they tested every single box against that, right, of performance and equality and all that,
yeah,
they could create an evergreen environment that if every new box that they launch just against that one standard, and you don't have to worry about new rules and battle tones.
Yeah, it's effectively automated testing. Right, it's the non-software world version of automated testing. You still have to back it up, but yes, yeah, it gives you a baseline.
And then once they have that baseline, like every Spearhead box is just being ground against that same baseline.
Sure.
And so they never have to rebalance anything, right? Because it's all being it has the same control on it.
Yep.
And so in that sense, it doesn't matter what books get released or what erratas happen, or like as long as it is in its own kind of like one situation, it could be fairly tightly balanced. Let me say it this way: they have a better chance of actually balancing that than the real game.
Yeah, sure.
They do,
absolutely,
because they can control all the variables.
Because they can control all the variables. Yes, absolutely, that is correct.
Yeah.
So, do you think GW will do a good job keeping the rules accessible for Spearhead? I fear they will force you to get the tome as well. I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope they just have free rules for Spearhead forever. It would be.
They said it. Well, they said it that it's in the indexes.
Yeah, they said the Spearhead indexes will initially be in there. The question is, like, when the book comes out, does that replace it? Do you still have free rules for Spearhead? That kind of thing. I don't know.
I mean, I would expect that we'll see the rules for the Spearhead in the box. In the Spearhead box. So if you buy the box, new box drops. If you buy the box, you get the rules.
Yeah, I mean, if they're smart, they'll keep the rule. Like, first of all, if they're smart, they'd make as much of the rules free as possible. But like at minimum, they should definitely have the new player learning mode rules free all the time, forever and ever and ever. Buy the box, get the rules free, right? It should not be buy the box and buy this battle tome for a thing that you may or may not need, right? Like that's just baseline. So one would hope they make the not dumb choice there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I would expect for Spearhead, I suspect it's going to be a fully supported environment, because they're like printing money, and it's a great, if it's designed correctly, it'll be a great intro to the game itself.
Yeah.
Which is what they've been lacking. I mean, I will say that. So who had asked that? Average Joe asked, but will they use the current boxes or relaunch the boxes for each army? We have 3 Spearhead boxes, right, that
Yep.
are available, that are marketed as Spearhead. In this image, they also show all of the Vanguard boxes that we have.
Yeah, and they say specifically right up here that it's going to be the Vanguard boxes. Each faction Spearhead and Vanguard boxes. So assumingly, no. Maybe they'll get like a rebranded box or something where they relabel them. But like, I am led to believe that these will just be the contents. The current Vanguard boxes are what we're going to see as the Spearheads.
Right. And in the video, when they were like showing examples of Spearheads or whatever, they had like the I think it was the Stormcast against Nurgle, and it was the Stormcast Spearhead with the Yggdrasil. And then it was the Nurgle Vanguard. Like, because we don't have a Nurgle Spearhead, but it was the Nurgle Vanguard in sense of that, which is what the current Nurgle one is. So my gut is that what we have as Vanguard, they were like seeding Spearhead into the play environment without actually like naming it as a new format, like play format.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, Gareth said it's possible that some of the regiments of renown become Spearheads too. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but sure, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay.
And vice versa. Like, you could also say it's possible that some of the regiment or some of the Spearhead or Vanguard become regiments of renown.
Sure.
So like, if you want to bring in, like, that would be your ally
Yeah.
And if that's the case, by the way, it would make more sense that the Vanguard boxes be approximately a quarter of your army rather than a third or a half. So just like as we're thinking through, pieces could end up falling out. If that's the case, it wouldn't surprise me if the Spearhead stuff ends up being a quarter of your army, and that is the allotment of regiment / out. And so if you want to bring in Seraphon, this is what it means to bring in Seraphon.
Okay.
Bring in a Carnosaur, you bring Saurus.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the reason this is exciting is because it's the number one thing we've asked for the past 3 years. That's it. Like, this has been the number one thing we've just banged the gavel on over and over and over and over and over again, is that throughout all of 3rd edition, this game has been way too hard to get into, way too complicated of an on-ramp, way too high of a barrier of entry. And so I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on this, because this is certainly, at least thematically, conceptually, going the right direction. Right?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. All right, hey, if you haven't hit like yet, you should do that. Hit like, hit subscribe, do all those fun things that make dings. You'll be at least, like, I don't know, probably 20% cooler. If I had to guess, it would be at least 20% cooler. So, give it a shot. See if it works. All right. So, Tom, this is most of the information we have thus far, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's some more. In this article, they said there's the nuance of the rules begin tomorrow when we look at what modularity actually means. I saw somebody say, I just can't picture what modularity would mean. Well, we don't have to wait long. We'll keep touching on this stuff as it drips out. Choose a side. This is so funny. Have you clicked this? Do you know what this does if you click it, Tom? If you click the choose a side, it takes you to the little email sign up for sign up for the newsletter.
I do know that. I do that because I clicked the Stormcast one and I was like, I don't want to for email.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, oh, I thought I was gonna get to a cool page that was gonna tell me about Skaven, right? Like, doesn't that feel like what that should do? You clickbaity tricky little jerks. No, I wanted to choose the Skaven side. I don't want to sign up for your newsletter.
Give us your data.
Yeah, exactly. But you got me.
There's probably some A/B testing going on here.
Oh, how many people click which side? Yeah, sure.
Choosing a side on Skaven and just trying to evaluate numbers and launches and all that.
Sure. Quick note here in the end to talk about. Then we'll do kind of our wrap up. The Mortal Realms Reforged Warhammer World and US Open 2024. So the Mortal Realms Reforged is one event running concurrently at Warhammer World in Nottingham, UK, and the Dallas, Texas leg of the U.S. Open Series. So this is basically the 16th through the 19th of May. Obviously, it's only the 18th and 19th of May at Warhammer World. The U.S. Open is more days, because in the UK they just shorter. They're not working as hard over there. Okay, so this is the first chance anywhere in the world to try out the smart changes wrought by the Warhammer Studio. Why this word? That's just so weird. And these people love writing adjectives. And most importantly, attendees will be able to play a hands-on demo of the game of the new edition. And they'll also find more about the exciting new Spearhead format, learn about the new rules, see all the gorgeous new miniatures. Oh, well, glad somebody gets to see them. And learn how to paint Skaven and Stormcast Eternals of the Hallowed Knights. So what that means, Tom, is that by that point in May, basically we'll have all the rules, right? Like maybe not every single, obviously not all the
so here's
faction packs or whatever, but we will have the full rules by that point.
Here's the next question. Do we get a July release like we've seen previous for edition?
Okay.
Or does it drop in June?
I think it's a June release.
You think so?
Yeah. End-ish of June, but June, yeah. Probably back 2 weeks from the sort of traditional July 4th. That would be my guess. Again, total, complete, like, reach up in the sky and grab a thing, right? But, yeah.
Sure.
So, let's see. Also, this piece of art rules. Whoever did this absolutely rules. That's fantastic. Look at that goofball. Look at that little guy back there. How could you not love the Skaven? Come on, man. They got little cute rats. All right. So Tom, let's leave this on our final hopes and dreams. Like what haven't we touched on? What else do you want to mention based on what we've seen so far? Okay, let's leave it on this awesome Stormcast guy here. With his bird dog dragon thing.
I hope that they blow us out of the water with the viable variant of how to play the game.
Okay. Unpack that. What do you mean?
Like, I hope that the glimpse that we've gotten from is actually like a glimpse of the actual been doing large scale for 4th edition, so that when it launches, suddenly have like a 4-player multiplayer variant
Sure.
that's viable, in an intro version of the game that's viable, in a campaign version that's viable, and a match play version that's viable. Like, suddenly we have 4 different games that we can play with all these models that are each their own offering, rather than are we playing 1,000 points, 1,500 points, or 2,000 of match play.
Yeah. No, I support that completely. I agree. Multiplayer, teams, format, all this kind of stuff, campaign modes, these kinds of things should be in there, factored in from the beginning. Like, just more ways for people to experience, to get into the game, to play it. My hope is that Spearhead heralds a way that the game actually, like, that the game plays well at the Spearhead level, at 1,000 points, at 1,500 points, and at 2,000 points. Like, I hope we actually took that into account and have that be true and functional. So I hope that's the case. I hope that the reactive system makes the game interesting and not burdensome or like confusing, where every time somebody is like going like, wait, how do I, hold on, I think I have something. Yeah.
I have a reaction.
Exactly. I'm going to put this on the stack. Any responses? Okay, it resolves. Okay. Like, I just...
Which, by the way, is going to be a nightmare for chess clocks. Like, if there's a lot of back and forth, like in the actual interchange.
Depends how complicated it is, right? Yeah, exactly. It could be.
Reaction. It could be problematic for chess clock.
Mm-hmm. That was going to be my next one, Dougie Fresh. I absolutely, you stole the words right out of my mouth. Please, guys, please. We haven't talked about it. I haven't seen it really mentioned. Maybe it was in one of the interviews and I just passed out from pain in that room. But good terrain rules How about that? How about some good terrain rules, like some actual terrain rules in the game that like are
Or
functional in a base assumption?
modular scaling terrain system. So like super basic, like next level, and then strong points.
Sure,
Like
whatever,
where
man.
people
Like
can
I'll take
opt
even the
into the
basic, which
system.
we're failing to hit at this point. But yeah, sure. Let's shoot for the moon. If we miss, we'll still be amongst the stars, right? Like just yeah, 100%. Um, Toasty said they mentioned briefly new terrain rules. Okay, good. I couldn't remember if that got. I didn't see it in the articles when I reread them, and I did not have time to rewatch every single video, obviously, for all of those. But that's good. Um, oh no, let me be very clear about the interviews. The interviews were good, and I'm glad they did them. I hated them if you were at Adepticon and trapped in that room live. It was torture to sit there for an hour
I
and 20 minutes and watch all of that back to back without commentary, without the ability to pause it or get up or use the restroom or whatever, which is how you were all watching it at home when you could just like step
I
away from your
was
computer.
laying in my comfortable bed in the dark,
Yeah, in which case all the interviews were
streaming it
great.
on.
But all I
Yeah,
wanted to see in
streaming
that
on my
room
phone.
was here's some sweet new models. I just wanted to be very clear here. I am appreciative of the interviews. They are a great background. Just they shouldn't be forcing us in a room full of 5,000 people. It was ridiculous how many people were in that room. So yes. And I agree, Evan. What about the spear? What does Abraxia's spear do? I mean, who knows? Why does she have horns? Who knows?
Is that
Um,
why? That's why it's called Spearhead.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But at any rate, those are some of my big hopes. And then obviously, I hope all the Skaven models are amazing, and uh, and just incredible. Like I want every Skaven. Here's what I want, Tom. Do you know what I want? I want
What
to
do you want?
take most of my Skaven army and
And
just
throw it in the
just
trash.
yeet it out of the house, just right in the trash, and just be like, I
Uh,
don't need these anymore. Gone.
if you do that,
10,000 points of Skaven.
I have room in my basement. You can just send them here. I'll find a home for them. I'll let my son play some games with them. It'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to throw them away. You don't need to see them incinerated in warp fire. It'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna burn my army in celebration. Not in anger. I'm gonna light the old Skaven on fire in celebration. That's what I'm gonna do in warp fire. Like do some post effects to make it look like green flame. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We'll
Yep.
twist. We'll do a little twist here on the old formula. Man
Yep.
burns army in celebration. Says he is very excited to have an excuse to pay 10,000 more points of Skaven.
You need to do like phosphorus. Get some of the right chemicals so the fire's great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, George Sutherland, George, that's not deep cut. I think about that joke all the time. I know that guy who did that. I hung out with that dude. So like it's very funny. Not like a lot. I was an acquaintance. I want to be very clear here, but like I did go to this guy's store and play some Warhammer with some of his club mates. I didn't get to play him directly, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, we send him off. We put him in a boat, and then we throw warp fire at it. There you go.
Yep.
All right, everybody. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What do you want to see most for AOS 4th? What's your fears? What's your hopes? Drop them in the comments. Tell me. Put that down there. And I'll be reading all of it. I can't wait. And so we'll see. That is correct. His name was Death, Holy Death. Well, it wasn't his real name. I don't think that's on his birth certificate, but that was the player's name. At any rate, thank you all so much for watching. Big show today. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, do all those things. I don't know. Hit other things that make dings. Do all that fun stuff. If you want to support the show, lots of ways you can do it. There's affiliate links down below. You can check out these new Monument Awesome Paints, Signature Series 5 and 6 for Rogue Hobbies and Flameon. They both look excited. You'll see a review of those coming up on the channel sometime in the future once I get a chance to actually get into them and give them some use. There's other stuff down there. Of course, if you want to pick up a game from Uncle Adam and I, all our games are down there. We're finishing up our newest game right now. And so, it'll launch before this does. So, hey, there you go. We've got that going on.
It's good.
It's going to be a banger. This one's going to be fun. There's also, and of course, there's our Patreon, which is focused on review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. But whatever you do, we thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, I realize that I put up the wrong thing.